For a time, we tried to contact him by radio, but no response.
FTR is the greatest tag team in the world. Arn Anderson, Steve Austin, Bret Hart, Tully Blanchard, Ricky Morton, Fit Finlay, Edge, Dennis Condrey, Randy Orton. You guys make your own decision. Hashtag FTR, hashtag greatest tag team of all time. Brought to you from Dax FTR on Twitter. What better way to kick off the breakdown to the PWI Tag Team 50 Tag Team Edition live episode of the Dumb Marks podcast with a quote from one of the members from the number one tag team in the world, FTR. Gentlemen, how we doing? How's everybody? Everybody good? Everybody got their homework, their list done, ready to get on and break down this PWI Tag Team 50 list and see what we agree, disagree with, and everything in between.
I think so. It's been a couple weeks since this list came out, so it gave us some time to review it. Because I know we all had some strong feelings when the first 5 to 10 names were released. When they were teased out. So, I'm ready to dive in.
All right. So, that. Of course, I don't have it pulled up because I'm a dumb mark. But why don't you run through the? I know we got the list of the scroll bar there, but run through the top 10 tag teams while I pull this list up, and then we can go ahead and get into it.
All right. So number 1, as Steve said, is FTR. Number 2 was Kenny Omega and Adam Page. They were AEW Tag Team Champions in 2020. Number 3 is the Golden Role Models of Bayley and Sasha Banks. So it's kind of nice to see them incorporate men and women tag teams in this list. From Impact Wrestling, the North, Ethan Page and Josh Alexander. Street Profits, Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins. The Gorillas of Destiny, Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa. The Lucha Brothers, Ray Phoenix and Penta El Zero M. Number 8 is the New Day, Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, and Big E. 9 was Kabuki Warriors of Asuka and Kairi Sane. And rounding out the top 10 was Roppongi 3K of Sho and Yo of New Japan.
All right. First, right off the bat, what jumps out to you, your initial thoughts going around the horn? We'll start at the top left screen with Chris and work our way around clockwise. So Donald, Jason, and then myself to wrap up. Right off the bat, what are your feelings on this top 10 and just general observations right off the bat?
The tag team that I expected to be in the top 10, I actually expect them to be number 1, even though when we look at the rulings of how they pick these 10 teams and really the top 50 list overall, I really expected the Young Bucks to be in the top 10. Not so much. I know they didn't have such a great year in wrestling, but they were consistent. They were always on TV. Might not have held any titles in 2020, but I was surprised with their absence in the top 10. They did round out the list at number 11 in the next round, but so that was surprising. Kenny Omega and Adam Page, they were a very long-running tag team this year. Held the titles for however many months it was. I know it was over 6, but the whole thing is, were they promoted that strongly? They were a good team. They defend the titles frequently, but I didn't feel like they were anything promoted as a great tag team. I felt that they were just a tag team that was put together for no reason, really. It just worked out.
All right. So Donald, before you jump in with your initial observations, so the way the PWI broke this list down, tag teams were evaluated from the period of October 1st, 2019 through September 30th, 2020. Criteria utilized when ranking the teams were momentum, win record, chemistry, creativity, and overall it factor. So with that being said, what are your initial thoughts on the top 10 list?
I think the whole top 5 is kind of messed up to me. And I agree with Chris with the Young Bucks. They should have been in the top 10, even though they wasn't featured much. They still had a major role in AEW in the tag force. And I haven't watched New Japan in a while. Roppongi 3K, I really can't talk about them, but I don't think they belong in the top 10.
All right, Jason, what do you got?
For the whole list or just the top 10?
Just the top 10, your initial reaction is just the top 10 whenever you saw it.
Well, number 1 doesn't fall in their criteria. What else is there? North Street one, right? Yeah. The list is wrong to me. It's out of order. I don't have FTR as number 1 based off their criteria.
All right. I'm not top 10. I'm not totally mad at the top 10. You can definitely move teams around here within the top 10, especially the top 5. I know it's WWE, but they don't put an emphasis on tag team wrestling at all. So it's kind of hard to have, you have 3 WWE teams here in the top 10 with a company that doesn't feature tag team wrestling. So that's kind of hard for me to throw them up there. And Bayley and Sasha, I mean, yeah, they were tag team women's champions, but what did they do with the belts? Who did they face? How long was their title reign? So yeah, I could definitely move this list around here. But the biggest standout to me was you have 3 WWE teams in the top 10 from a company that doesn't feature tag team wrestling.
Yeah.
So all right, so then let's go. All right, well, let's break down this criteria, right?
Okay.
So the October 1st, 2019 through September 30th, 2020. Okay. That's the year-long factor that's being broken into this list. Momentum, win record, chemistry, creativity, overall activity, and it factor. Jason, I'm going to kick it to you first because you seem to be the person that has the most disdain for having FTR at number 1 on this list. What about FTR being number 1 on the list for you doesn't fit into this criteria that PWI set out for their breakdown of the list?
12 matches. Over a year, 12 matches.
Now, they were on a no-compete clause, right? So they asked for their release, but they weren't able to.
12 matches.
So that's strictly it for you. They only had 12 matches over the course of that year, and that's it.
That's it.
Okay.
It qualify.
So who would you put in number 1 spot if FTR is not there? Who would you have as the number 1 tag team for this year?
I want to steal Dawn's thunder. Who do you have number 1, Dawn?
I had Sasha Bayley, 1 for me.
Oh, Sasha Bayley. I have Street Profit.
You WWE marks, you shills.
No.
What do you mean no? How do you have Street Profits at number 1?
Are they still tag champions?
Oh, the Raw tag team titles that they got handed based off of being drafted to Raw because champions just exchange belts from different brands nowadays. Right?
SmackDown.
Whatever. That's how relevant they are. I don't even know what roster they're on.
Still champions for 286 days. On the show every day, every week.
All right. So you got Street Profits, Dawn. Dawn, were you joking with Sasha and Bayley, or are you serious? You have them at number 1?
Oh no, I'm serious. I'm serious at number 1 because during the whole COVID time, they held 3 shows down. 3 shows. Raw, SmackDown, and NXT.
But were they were they consistently defending the tag team titles over those 3 shows during that time frame? No, they were having singles matches.
Street Profits were.
Chris, who you got number 1?
I don't think you're gonna like my answer.
Right? Don't say Street Profits.
Honestly, I see the argument for Street Profits because I really do think that even though they might not be pushed as the tag team, and WWE doesn't really push tag team division, they've had a great year. They have held the belts for a long time. They're featured every week, in at least a backstage segment and a match. So I can see the argument for Street Profits. My answer, though, is up until the draft, they were the longest running tag team, for a long time. Even their 3-man team is the New Day. I think they're the most over tag team in wrestling up until they split. I know they all had a rough year with some injuries and everything, but I don't know if it gets much bigger than the New Day whenever you're talking about tag teams for a few years now.
Well, that's a few years. What are they? The Ohio State of tag teams? That's why you put them so high on the list, because of their reputation over the past 5 years?
But they get featured every week. They were another one. Yeah, they might have been injured and some had weeks off, but they're on multiple segments of a show every week in multiple matches. I don't know who gets used in the tag team division better than the New Day.
All right. For me, the number 1 tag team for this year was the North.
Okay.
So you don't even have FTR as number 1?
No, I don't. Not based off of the criteria. I don't. Not based off of criteria. To me, the number 1 tag team is the North. They held the Impact Tag Team titles for over a year. They continuously fought and defended those belts on a regular basis. They literally beat every single tag team that Impact has to offer. Push, momentum, it factor, creativity. Like, they check all the boxes for the criteria. They were the longest reigning champions out of any of the champions that were listed in this top 10 list. So to me, the North would be the number 1 tag team. I don't care that they're in Impact Wrestling. It doesn't matter to me. I'm looking strictly at the year that this took place and the criteria. Doesn't specify promotion or anything like that. The North, they're number 1 tag team for me across the board. And you'll be hard pressed to argue against that for me, based off of what they did over the last year.
I completely understand your argument. I think you're right on that. I think probably what hurt them is where they are at. I think that's why they're at number 4. Because whenever you look at eyes on the product, Impact just doesn't get the eyes that AEW, Raw, SmackDown, and NXT get.
It's irrelevant to me. Like, they're better. I mean, they're above Sasha and Bayley. Tag team wrestling. I don't think of Sasha and Bayley tag team wrestling. They're 2 singles competitors thrown together in a team. And that whole put together in a team for Sasha and Bayley, that just further enhanced the Sasha and Bayley storyline with them breaking up and feuding towards the end of this year, which we've seen, over the past couple months.
Yeah.
So does that knock Omega and Page down for you too?
I was just going to say that too, Jason.
I have them above Sasha and Bayley. But
Omega and Page are above Sasha and Bayley for me. If I'm looking at this top 10 list, they're above Sasha and Bayley. I would probably say I would have them I'd have them at number 2. I would keep them at 2. Based off of how long they held the titles, the matches that they had versus the opponents that they had, and chemistry. You can argue that the chemistry wasn't there because the teases and the breakups were evident from the start, but you can't knock what they did in the ring as a tag team, who they beat, how long they had the belts. They were prominently, shown on AEW television in the tag team division. And, your first year in existence for AEW, your longest reigning champs were not the Young Bucks. It was Hangman and Adam. It was Hangman and Kenny Omega. So to me, like you have to have them in the at number 2 or no further than 3rd in the top 5.
I can understand that. I don't think your argument's invalid.
And you know, I don't like to me the Young Bucks, Chris. I know you have you said, you know, Young Bucks, they would be what in the top 10, top 5 for you?
Yeah,
top 10 for me.
I mean, their year wasn't a great year.
Now, what about Lucha Bros?
So Lucha Bros, I think a lot of the work that gets Lucha Bros into the top 10 list was done and taken outside of AEW. Okay. So you have to look at them, at their work in AAA and in the other promotions that they were involved in and other matches that they had, which is why they're so high up at number 7. I'm not mad with Lucha Bros being there in the top 10 where they're placed right now because of what they've done.
I mean, I know Young Bucks, and I think that was done on purpose that they weren't used strong in the beginning of Dynamite, you know, in 2019 and 2020. I think that was they wanted the slow build. You know, they didn't want to be seen as putting themselves over first. So they did a slow build, but they had some of the best matches I think of 2020. You know, they kicked off a lot of the Dynamite shows, which were always consistently Dynamite's kickoff match is good. And I just think that, I think they deserve to be in the top 10. I think they're definitely going to break the top 5 next year just because they're the tag champs now. You know, PWI likes those guys, so I see them getting them pretty high next year.
I just don't see how you have Asuka and Kairi Sane and Kabuki Warriors and Bayley and Sasha in the top 10.
I don't agree with Kabuki Warriors at all.
No, me neither. Because Kairi was hurt most of the time. Not most of the time, but a good amount.
Yeah. They weren't even a strong team throughout the year. Yeah, they were tag champs. I get that. But you know, it wasn't a strong run. I think it was weaker than Bayley and Sasha. So they wrestled consistently, you know, on TV. But it really didn't do much.
All right, some of the other names to just highlight here as we go down through this top 50 list. You already brought up the Young Bucks at 11. Undisputed Era, they list all 4 individuals there at 13. I don't get that, but whatever. The Briscoes at 15, Proud and Powerful, Santana Ortiz 16, SCU 17, The Rascals 18, Private Party 19, Alexa Bliss, Nikki Cross 22, The Artist Collective, Cesaro, Sami Zayn, Shinsuke 24.
That should have been a lot lower.
Best Friends 25. The Miz and Morrison 27. Good Brothers, Doc Gallows, Carl Anderson 33. Viking Raiders 35.
Lower.
The Dark Order 38. Evil Uno, Stu Grayson. The Von Erichs at 39. The Rock and Roll Express at 40.
Off the list. Off the list.
Breezango 44.
There are only 50 tag teams in all of the world because that's the only reason I can see the Rock and Roll Express being on this list.
Oh, I have notable missings.
The Iconics at 50 round out the list. The Rock and Roll Express. Go back and look at their year.
Oh, I know they're still wrestling.
Yeah,
but is there a reason they're still wrestling other than to get a paycheck?
They held the NWA titles.
I know. No.
No.
All right, who's your biggest team that got left off? That's a tag team that got left off the list.
Jurassic Express.
Okay.
Phantasma could have been on there.
Okay. Donald, you got anybody? Or Jason?
Who else? The Imperium guys, because they were doing their stuff. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jason, do you have somebody else?
Did I say Hurt? I said right, Hurt Business. Hurt Business, right? That was it.
Okay.
Go.
I think Imperium was on there.
They weren't in the top 50.
Imperium, it's just they're at number 41, but it's just Barthel and Eichner.
It's not the whole group.
Yeah, they don't list everybody. So,
Chris, anybody for you?
But they don't do it for Imperium.
No, honestly, nobody really pops out that offhand. But I didn't realize Jurassic Express and wasn't on there either.
I mean, I don't have anybody that I think of that was like a snub or like like it's like, oh, he didn't make the Pro Bowl, or oh, he didn't make the NBA All-Star game. Like I didn't see any of that.
Yeah.
Per se. Obviously, with these lists, they're subjective. The thing that I always hate and that I harp on when we break down these PWI lists, and one of the reasons why we do it is because they place a criteria on their list. So immediately when you have a criteria, you got to stick to the criteria. Chris, we did this when we broke down the men's and women's rankings for the earlier editions. Some of the people that were on that list did not qualify for the criteria. So
exactly.
I can see Jason's point with saying FTR, you only had 12 matches, so why are you number one on the list? Okay, what do you check in with the other boxes that are in the criteria, and how do you stack up with the other teams on the list as far as those other boxes if you only had 12 matches? That's debatable. You can run through that and hit that hit those marks and discuss that and break that down further and see who's who and whatnot. I just find it hard to believe that you have 3 WWE tag teams and 2 of those are women. 4 WWE tag teams in the top 10. 4. Right? Kabuki Warriors, Street Profits,
New Day,
and Sasha. So 4 out of the top 10.
Yeah.
Come on, I can't buy into that. A company that hasn't put tag team wrestling at the forefront in years. You can go back all the way to say they haven't prioritized tag team wrestling since the first TLC or the first tables, ladders, and chairs match with the Hardys, Dudleys, and Edge and Christian. It's been that long since tag team wrestling was prevalent and spotlighted in WWE. And you mean to tell me you have 4 of those tag teams in the top 50, in the top 10? 4 from WWE in the top 10, and what? One of those is an actual legitimate team, the New Day. Well, Street Profits are, so I guess half, so 50-50 there. But come on, I can't buy that. Not at all.
No Usos in the top 50?
No. Well, how long was Jimmy out for?
They were
You can say
hurt.
For the year?
You can say that with half the teams.
Yeah, it's true.
You can say that with half the teams.
I mean, New Day, yeah, like Woods was out, but you still had Kofi and Big E.
And even Kofi was gone for a little bit too.
And Kofi was gone for a little bit too. But was Kofi gone after after that year mark?
No, it was before.
So yeah, so I mean, I don't know. To me, I'm glad to see the North up there at number 4 because their impact, and it's like, who's the North? People are like, who's the North? But if you look at it and you run through that criteria of push, momentum, creativity, whatever else they have listed there, they check every single box, and I find you hard pressed to argue against them to have them in the number 1 spot.
No, and I mean, even though PWI has criteria, lists are always going to be subjective, unless you're actually looking at complete stats. To list like hard fact stats. If you do that, that's the only way that you can sit there and say that the list isn't subjective. There's 4 of us on here, and we're all going to have 4 different top 10s. And
then if one of your things is win-loss record, one of your criteria is win-loss record, well, that should automatically roll out every WWE tag team because they all do 50-50 booking. Show me the win-loss record from Street Profits or from Kabuki Warriors, or I mean, hell, it's easy when you wrestle the same team over and over again each week because you only have 2 tag teams on your show.
That would be interesting to see if someone would take at least even the top 10 and break down what their win-loss record was for this.
It's not even win-loss record. It's 12 matches. That's not even That's too
And I
much.
know.
That's too
And I
much.
know. I mean, if you would even just say the best tag team is the team that won the most matches in 2019 to 2020, it'd be interesting to see who that was.
And listen, this is no slight against FTR because I love FTR. They're my favorite tag team. I love everything about them. They bring that old school tag team vibe back for me. I love what they do in the ring. You know, I love their promo. I like the presentation with Tully and everything else.
Which is why you like the North so much too.
And that's exactly why I love the North so much. This Impact AEW crossover, the only match I want to see is the North and FTR. I sent, I tagged all them in it and I put it out there as soon as that crossover happened. Like, I don't care. Give me this match. It's the only match I look forward to out of all the possible matchups between the two companies. I want to see the North and I want to see FTR.
I'd like to see Young Bucks and the Good Brothers just because they're friends. I think they could have a fun match.
All right. Well, anybody got anything else to wrap up before we get out of here from this live edition of the Dumb Marks podcast, breaking down the PWI Tag Team Top 50 list?
I think AEW is like not killing it, but you have so many tags in like 8-man matches. How can you fully adhere to the criteria that they're putting forth?
I will be interested to see next year's list, given all the tag teams that are in AEW, because I mean we can all agree on this. AEW has the deepest tag team roster, correct?
Yeah.
We can all agree on that, right? So I want to see next year. WWE had the most tag teams per promotion in the top 10. Let's see if AEW flips that next year.
I'd also like to know, do they count like individual matches? Because a lot of times WWE has tag teams involved in matches, but it's a singles match.
I don't know. Yeah, that wasn't according to the criteria. That does not count.
Okay.
Single matches as tag teams do not count.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Good conversation. Good breakdown. Like Chris said, every list is subjective. You asked the 4 of us to rank the top 10 teams, and we'll give you 4 different lists. But it's always fun to break down and discuss and hop on and figure out who's who has what, and where we see it in the future. Again, we're interested to see how this list shakes out and breaks down for next year, given where we're at in time right now and the potential for how things are going to look in the future. So with that, if nobody else has anything else, and I'll take that as silence.
Good.
All right. Well, until next time, folks, thanks for hopping on live, and we'll catch you around the way.